Long ago, there lived an archmage whose might was so great that it exceeded all the limits of power that any ordinary human could possess. The gods themselves were afraid of his might, and as a consequence of this mortal sin, they chose to punish him by making him mad and locking him away in the abyss's void for eternity. Yet even this punishment was insufficient to hold the archmage back. After many thousands of years in prison, he figured out how to be reborn in someone else's body. Lucas was reborn as Frey, the weakest student at the Magic Academy, who was bullied by everyone, even his family, for his weakness. He was so desperate that he considered taking his own life, but our Archmage intervened and prevented him from doing so. Can he recover his former strength and once again become the mightiest in the Academy while inhabiting this loser's body? Let's see. Later, Lucas feels incredibly hungry, so he heads to the student restaurant at the Academy of the Western Path. He runs into the restaurant and without a moment's hesitation, he attacks his food, devouring it like it's his last meal on earth. Those nearby can't help but watch and murmur, questioning how he consumes his meal like a ravenous animal. People wonder if he has been starving for a week or something, but Lucas is too busy eating to care about his surroundings. The flavor of the food overwhelms him since it has been 4,000 years since he last tasted anything. Everything tasted so good and melted in his mouth. Following that, Lucas strolls through the campus and comes to the realization that he is around 4,000 years old and is expected to attend basic magic classes with these children. He thinks it's pretty pointless, but he sighs and accepts that there's nothing to be done, not with Frey's current knowledge. He can't make up for the 4,000 years he's been inactive. As it stands, he needs to see how this world is, so he should take his time. Then Lucas opens the door. David yells with joy seeing Lucas alive, winning the food ticket bet. As Jack hits the desk in frustration and grumbles that this fool can't even manage to kill himself correctly, David teases his friend and says that's why he advises him to think positively. But Jack says it bothers him that Frey is still alive. On the other hand, Lucas is confused by the situation and their conversation. He continues walking around the room and David intentionally sticks his foot out to block his path with a smile. Then David asks what is wrong to continue the daily ritual with him. The next day, Frey returns to his academy, although Lucas thinks it's unnecessary for him to be studying with some kids. Upon entering the hallway, he notices a group of students calling him by name and asking him to come closer. Lucas is questioning who these students might be. He initially believes they are friends of Frey, but oddly, the group labels him a loser. The reason Jack is upset is that he lost his bet. In his opinion, Frey should already be dead, but he seems to be quite alive. Now, in a fit of rage, Jack is striking Frey's head because Frey's survival means he owes David a meal worth 10 tickets. At first, Lucas considers ignoring them, but it helps him realize that these are not Frey's friends and that such encounters are inevitable, regardless of the time. It's probable that you'll run into some idiot bullies at some point. Lucas sees that Frey's body is shaking with fear. He notices that Frey's body is reacting to fear instead of Lucas's essence, almost like muscle memory. Lucas feels embarrassed to tremble before a fat man. Then Jack pulls Lucas's cheeks and Lucas stares at Jack while he does it. Then Jack moves in to slap him now, but Lucas steps aside and Jack can't really land the hit. All are rather astonished by Frey since he acted with remarkable speed. A few begin to whisper, utterly shocked by what they witness since Frey was unable to defend himself, and all are in disbelief. Lucas suddenly remembers that Frey went to end his life because of these bullies. Feeling humiliated for not being able to slap Lucas, Jack rises and seizes Lucas by the head to hit him, but Lucas swiftly withdraws his hand from his pocket and retaliates, knocking him out with just one hit. Jack lands far away on the ground, and those who saw it were in disbelief that Frey could achieve such a feat. A person who had always been so helpless and frail suddenly displayed such strength and might. A girl watching appeared quite entertained by Frey's defense. Lucas feels sorry for Frey, the powerful archmage, fighting against these bratty kids. He informs Frey that, given Lucas's reputation as the most powerful archmage ever, he should view this as an additional service. Suddenly, a voice from behind asks what's happening. It's Professor Dio. The students inform him that Jack has fallen and is motionless. Professor Dio approaches and closely examines Jack. Seeing Jack in this situation makes him anxious, as Jack isn't waking up and has scratches on his face and body. Professor Dio observes that there are mana-enhanced martial arts marks on Jack's round belly. The professor is astonished that even the instructors employed by that institution wouldn't be skilled enough to deliver such a blow. No one dares to answer when he asks who could have done this. Afterward, Jack is brought to the infirmary by Professor Dio and the lesson goes on. Kevin, another professor, will cover for him. He informs the students that Jack has merely experienced a mild concussion and that he is not in danger. He also encourages them to pay attention to the lesson because Jack and Professor Dio will be back tonight. Well, What happens with Professor Kevin is that he is a big pervert, known for his inappropriate behavior and is unpleasant for everyone, since he tends to look at the girls in class for an excessive amount of time. So many lovely girls were present in class, especially one called Isabella, she says quietly. Her presence makes all the other girls feel uneasy. Students were murmuring about their deeds, but no one spoke up due to their fear of the teacher's retaliation. Kevin's attention now shifts to Lucas, who occupies the front desk. Frey seldom comes to class, so he approaches him. Lucas believed that Frey was simply weak physically and would perform well in school, but in reality, he is a total incel. Anyway, Frey responds to Kevin and says he was a bit busy and couldn't attend his class. In reality, Frey doesn't go to Kevin's class because he constantly mocks him, despite being a teacher. Kevin gets really mad when he learns he has more important things than class. Lucas, not afraid, says he's just being rebellious. The class erupts in laughter, and Professor Kevin shakes with fury. Kevin's face shows his anger clearly. No one had ever dared to respond to him that way, as he used to harass students and make their lives miserable at the academy. But everyone stops laughing when they see the visible anger on Kevin's face. The classroom goes quiet, and all the students ponder what fate awaits Frey, since Professor Kevin is quite disagreeable, and challenging or replying to him frequently irritates the students. Lucas intentionally taunts the professor while overhearing the girls in the back discussing his conduct towards them. After that, Kevin goes on to tell Frey about the upcoming test he is about to administer, and if he fails to answer any of them, he would be required to take all responsibility and endure the fitting punishment for not attending his lesson. Lucas is all set, and Kevin begins with the first question. Which divine fist did Kasashin carry for a specific team? When Lucas hears Kasashin's name, he is astonished, as if he has a personal connection to him. He begins to stammer his name, leading Kevin to mistakenly believe that Frey likely doesn't know the answer. Kazai-jin, a figure as large as Hulk, was an expert in harnessing mana to boost his abilities. His mana was so formidable that it could even break through mountains. So some time ago, while Kazai-jin was training, he heard a voice calling him from behind. This is Lucas, Kazai-jin's friend, who is advising him to slow down, as his muscles will surely wear out at this rate. He would even destroy all the mountains, and if he keeps destroying them, wild animals will have nowhere to live. Kazai-jin and Lucas greet each other, but Kazai-jin keeps on drilling. Lucas is waiting outside Kazai-jin's home, asking him to stop training when his friend finally comes to visit after so long. Kazai-jin briefly stops and then turns to Lucas, telling him that he made tea for him, which will keep him occupied. Lucas sighs while pouring tea into a cup and drinking, questioning what he expected from a muscle-bound man and how he will likely remain single. Itpo, mal dadila. Kazai-jin, upon hearing that Lucas is single, becomes upset and approaches him to declare that romance is a harmful concept that interferes with rational thought. Lucas asks him to stop giving his old lectures, but Kazai-jin tells him that a martial artist should look at women as if they were looking at a hard rock. Kazai-jin ignores Lucas and resumes his training. In the present, Lucas reflects on memories from his previous life and finds himself laughing uncontrollably. Lucas realizes he is in class and the teacher is asking him questions, but he can't help but laugh, and it seems unreal that his silly friend, a musclehead, is now a legend to the people after 4,000 years. In the meantime, Kevin grins maliciously, prepared to punish Lucas because he believes Lucas is unaware of who Kazai-jin is, and the students whisper that he has been doing fine since they weren't teaching the students with all those textbooks. Isabel, who is sitting at the last desk, thinks it is unfair because the question she asked is completely irrelevant to the class. She gets up and apologizes to Professor Kevin, saying that the topic he brought up was hardly relevant to their current class on magical studies. Everyone in the class begins to whisper and gossip as they wonder how she could have dared to speak out against Professor Kevin. Even Lucas turns to look at her, surprised by her boldness. Furthermore, she continues to say that Kazai-jin was a martial artist who only used mana to enhance his physical training, so how could they call him a wizard? Upon hearing her, Kevin glares at her in anger and approaches Isabel, murmuring the very words she had just spoken. Kevin claims that Isabel is attempting to belittle all those who pursue the magical arts, to which Isabel responds that she considers it irrelevant, and that is her main argument. Lucas recalls with a smile that Kazai-jin called himself a martial artist and warned that he would kill anyone who dared to use the term magic in reference to him. Conversely, Kevin, behaving inappropriately towards Isabel, seizes her by both arms and states that he finds the argument interesting and would rather have her in his laboratory. Isabel pushes Kevin away, feeling uncomfortable. Kevin gets angrier and calls her rude while asking about Kazai-jin's 3 famous items. Just before he can react, Frey at the front desk smiles and announces the gauntlets of the Lord of Fire, the Giant's Bag, and the Vortex Amulet. He claims he had nothing else, and that was all Kazai-jin had. The students look at him in shock. Lucas quietly remarks to himself that he had always urged him to keep up with fashion trends, but he never did, particularly with an old relic hanging around his neck. All the students look at Lucas with wide open eyes, since he is so confident. The professor says he is right. Lucas knew his foolish friend well, and Isabel seems impressed while Kevin's smile disappears in anger. The students whisper and wonder how Lucas knows so much. The professor Kevin's focus then returns to Isabel, and the room freezes, and he grabs her wrist telling her that he will teach her some manners and to follow him to his lab. Isabel's unease is clear, and before she can do anything or reply, a voice comes from the front, and it is Lucas once more. He references what Kasai Jin often said, that being interested in the opposite sex is an unnecessary thought that disrupts one's rationality. A real martial artist must see a woman as they would see a stone. And those who are obsessed with desire forget their duty and are unable to stand on their own, as if they are nothing more than a beast. Kevin looks at him with doubtful eyes, to which Lucas responds that Kazejin was wrong because Kevin was standing on his own. All the jaws of the students hit the ground, and they look at Frey in disbelief, unable to comprehend what they are listening to. Kevin is literally shaking with rage, and his face turns an alarming shade of red as he aggressively questions Lucas if he is crazy, since according to him, he merely had luck in answering one question, and we will see how long his arrogance holds up. He comes closer and tells her that if she answers even a single question wrong, she will face punishment as a student in that academy. Lucas reclines in his chair, grinning as he playfully provokes Kevin. The surprise is clear not just on Professor Kevin's face, but also on Isabel's and all the students, including his greatest rival David. They gaze at Lucas, eyes wide open, as he responds to every question thrown at him. The professor is bewildered, unable to comprehend what he is seeing, especially since Lucas even discussed the Age of Light, a topic unknown to the teachers present. Everyone wonders, is this even the same Blake Free who was called the fool of that academy? Then the bell rings, and it's lunchtime. Lucas smiles at the professor and taps the desk, saying that Kevin won't have any more questions and that it was fun for him to be part of that contest. Now he's quite hungry. The professor literally can't believe what just happened and wonders how Lucas knows so much about events from 4,000 years ago in such detail. Following that, Lucas bolts out of the classroom as if he had been eagerly anticipating lunchtime. In the meantime, Isabel is taking in the whole scene and feels quite impressed by Lucas. Shortly after, Lucas heads off to grab some food because it's lunchtime, just as a voice cuts in. Isabel is the one who stops him and asks whether he is going to the cafeteria. He looks at her but keeps walking, ignoring her as if he hadn't heard her at all. Given this, Isabel is surprised, wondering how he can ignore her. Being a stubborn person, she follows him. Annoyed by her, Lucas turns around and yells what his problem is and why she has been following him, to which she replies that she is simply on her way to get some food, just like him. Like us, Lucas finds her way of speaking very strange, but she says that is how she was raised. In the cafeteria, Lucas orders a large amount of food. Isabel sits at the same table facing Lucas and observes all that food. Then she asks if he's going to eat all that food alone. Lucas murmurs that he'll eat as much as he's been hungry for 4,000 years. Isabel, surprised by his words, asks him what he meant, but Lucas tells her to forget it. He redirects the conversation to her, asking why she is following him in the first place. She expresses her apologies, hoping he won't take it the wrong way, but she couldn't find anywhere else to sit down. Isabel directly addresses the issue and keeps asking how he knows so much about the Age of Light. Lucas is confused about what she means. Regarding the Era of Light, Isabel explains to him about the time 4,000 years ago when the 4 great heroes used to walk among them. Additionally, she continues by saying that everyone calls it the Era of Light because it was when the power of magic was said to have reached its strongest peak, overshadowing later eras. While eating, Lucas thinks that he can only sigh after all. She continues to speak, noting that 4,000 years have gone by and magical research has not progressed. In fact, it has gone backward. At first, she gets angry if there have been no advancements, but being suspicious, Lucas thinks about whether this is the doing of the demigod, and then Isabel names the 4 legends that crafted the tale of magical research. The House and Jimpunyo of God, the great sage Shisere Strau, the Witch of Darkness, the founder of the Pasiris, and she goes on to name the most powerful archmage recognized in all of history, Lucas Trauman, the person she holds in the highest regard. What he is about to reveal is something Lucas never expected. Isabel says he was the most remarkable even among all the legends, and if he were alive today, she would have proposed to him. When Lucas hears this, he chokes on his food and begins to cough while nervously laughing. Isabel, seeing him laugh, feels puzzled. Lucas chuckles, remarking that a young girl like her wishes to propose marriage to him. He expresses, in a tone that suggests he feels flattered by her proposal, that he is not interested in young girls. Isabel, embarrassed, says it is inappropriate for him to say that as she never mentioned proposing to him. The people around were chatting and noticed how Isabel was having lunch with Frey, and some even saw her chasing after Frey. Everyone is surprised because she is ranked number 1 or 2 among all the students in that academy. They all wonder why she is choosing Frey when she even rejected David. David walks by those students, glaring at them, and when he spots Isabel and Frey having lunch together, he feels a surge of jealousy. Isabel asks questions, but he doesn't care since he's enjoying his food. Afterward, she inquires about the professor, his last question, which concerned the 3 training methods of Chaser, and he replied with assimilation, training, and combat. Moreover, she goes on to explain that, as she sees it, there are only 2 methods, to fight and to assimilate. Lucas doesn't answer because he is busy eating, so Isabel slams her hand on the table and asks him how to become stronger with fighting methods. Lucas asks her what level she is at now. She tells him that she is in the initial phases of level 3. Without interest, Lucas tells her that it's not bad for someone so young. Isabel feels odd and thinks she has picked up on a lot today. Yet Lucas speaks as if he were considerably older. Lucas licks his plate and says with sarcasm that he is almost a fossil on 2 legs. She asks about his age and he says they are the same, but Lucas disagrees. As he hears all the inquiries, Lucas gathers his plates and departs, yet Isabel requests him to hold on a moment. He still hasn't replied to her inquiry regarding the type of training that the battle method entails. Lucas recommends that she limit herself to reading since his knowledge is derived from experience, which can seem unusual. Isabel's eyes widen in astonishment, wondering how he experienced all that and who he really is. Later, all the students are outside for a live combat training. The teacher goes on to tell the students that to make this training fair, they will only allow level 1 magic. Isabel and Lucas sit side by side and she continues to inquire about additional combat techniques. Meanwhile, David feels jealousy watching them together. He wonders why Isabel is so focused on that loser who just hit his friend. After that, the professor declares that apart from the magical limitation, the battle will resemble a genuine combat scenario. Even if one of them happens to be hurt during this combat, no one will step in, so he hopes all students treat this training as seriously as their own lives. So, our boy Lucas gazes at the teacher, Jane, and is utterly captivated by her beauty. Upon witnessing this, Isabel feels not just embarrassed, but also somewhat surprised, and asks if he has lost his mind, considering the teacher is over 40 and how he could be interested in her. Lucas says Jane is beautiful and that Isabel should learn from her, as he sees her as the perfect beauty of a mature woman. Feeling odd, Isabel remarks that he has a preference for older women. After that, the professor instructs them to begin the match and asks David to face Frey. They stand face to face, David's expression full of anger. And he asks Lucas how he is doing. He thought he would die of boredom waiting for that match, and he didn't sleep last night because he was so excited about this fight. They were walking toward each other, or so David thought. However, Lucas approached the teacher, lifted her into his arms, and carefully lowered her. Everyone is incredulous, but Lucas doesn't seem to care, and he tells her that he finally understands the true reason for his awakening from eternal sleep the moment he saw her. He is convinced that it was her enchanting beauty that roused him from slumber. Also, Lucas tries to convince her that he looks young, but his heart and mind are older than hers, and he asks if she wants to have dinner with him tonight, a man of color. The teacher blushes and runs out of his arms, telling him to focus on the duel right now, as she won't warn him again. She asks what would happen if he wins, if he would be allowed to invite her to dinner. All the students believe he is insane, and everyone is looking on with their mouths open and eyes wide. David mocks him, saying he thinks he can win, even though he's just a level 1 wizard and David is a level 3. Meanwhile, Professor Jane sighs and says she'll take him to dinner that night if he wins. Lucas replies it's a promise, and she feels shy and embarrassed. Lucas truly made her feel weak in the knees, and she murmurs to herself that she shouldn't be attracted to a student, as it's inappropriate. Then Lucas turns back to David, looking at him. David asks him if he's crazy or if he was just flattering Professor Jane to stop the fight. Lucas opens his hands and with a puzzled look asks why he would do such a thing. With great confidence, David asks if he had a good sleep since he can't understand what's happening now. He threatens him that he will break his vocal cords and shatter his limbs one by one, making his situation so dire that he won't be able to surrender or scream. And that day will be the last he walks on his own legs. David arrogantly states that he is David and can do anything. Professor Jane gives the starting signal and everyone begins to cheer, but as soon as the fight starts, David casts the Stone Fury spell. The astonishment in the crowd is evident, and they wonder how he can even use that. Worried, Isabella asks Professor Jane how he is using those spells, as it goes against the rules and the fight was limited to level 1. Meanwhile, David proudly tells everyone that it is the spell developed by the heirs of his lineage. And it is a powerful spell, but depending on the situation, it can be used as level 1 magic. Lucas asks if he is using that skill to abuse someone. David smiles with arrogance, thinking Lucas is afraid, and with his spell, all the rocks around him are suspended, but Lucas casually creates a magic missile. It's an admirable movement, and the beautiful color of the missile makes the students look on curiously, wondering what it is. David laughs and asks him if this is the only spell he can cast against his magical stone fury, mocking him in the process. However, with a simple movement of Lucas's finger, the missile heads directly for the rocks suspended in the air, and with a loud impact, David falls to the ground, trembling intensely. All onlookers are captivated by the scene, mouths agape and eyes wide. They are not just astonished and shocked, they also struggle to understand Frey's sudden transformation. David lies on the ground, stunned, trembling and shaken by pain as he tries to speak. His vocal cords won't allow him to utter a word. Conversely, two boys close by on campus are questioning the origin of all the voices. One tells the other that Section C is having magical duels that afternoon. Back in the duel, Lucas advises David to be ashamed of using his lineage's magic in such a dishonorable way. And that is not any better than disrespecting the honor of his family by spitting on it. While mocking him, he conjures a magical missile again and taunts him, saying he will break his limbs one by one. With a weak voice, David pleads for him to stop and apologizes, but Lucas pays no attention, and with a finger snap, the missile is launched directly at David's limbs. David screams in agony, and Lucas mocks him, asking why he is screaming now when he was going to do the same to Frey, and if he isn't enjoying it. Isabel is shocked and knows that this is going too far. She requests Professor Jane to intervene, stating that this fight has a clear winner, but the professor replies that the opponent has not surrendered yet. Isabel informs her that his vocal cords are hurt, but the professor gives her a sidelong glance and tells her to stop talking, as she stated at the start that, while it may be a simulated fight, people must view this as a true struggle. And the road of a wizard, is packed with risks that must be tackled head-on. And it is not for the faint of heart, nor can one expect salvation at their backs. Lucas is torturing David, saying he seemed to enjoy it when he was the aggressor, but now he doesn't seem to enjoy it as much. And it is because someone like him calls himself a wizard that the world has turned to crap like this. He thinks David would be better off without any magic at all, and that it would be better for society. He approaches David and provokes him by saying he thinks he will destroy all his limbs, but he is just joking and won't do it, because he is a good-hearted person and will only destroy his legs. Lucas begins to walk away, and then remembers that he only destroyed one of David's legs, and with a snap of his fingers, Lucas sent another missile flying toward David's other leg. The sound of the second fracture was followed by another cry, and Lucas laughed coldly. After the fight, the whole campus is talking about the duel and how someone who used to be a loser like Frey destroyed David. Conversely, David was returned to his estate after suffering broken legs and a crushed throat. Some people claim he got what he deserved. Some were happy the campus was peaceful. When Lucas walks by, everyone looks and talks because he is the campus star, and they wonder if he made a deal with the devil. He disregarded the murmurs. Their faces were emotionless until a guy approached him, asking if he was Frey Blake and presenting himself as a fourth-year student named Doman Milrost. He invites Lucas to join the Troman Rings. Lucas tells him he is not interested. The man explains that he must have heard of them as he is part of this academy, and he elaborates that they are the student body representing West Road Academy, which is essentially what Truman Rings is all about. He explains that this is not a meeting that invites anyone wishing to join them, but only those they have judged to be worthy can gain entry. He continues by displaying a ring on his finger and explains that it is the runic ring awarded to members of Truman Rings. The symbols engraved on the rings were personally crafted by master artisans and are made of pure gold. If he bites it, it will leave a mark, and just possessing the ring means that his life will be secure even after graduating from this academy. Lucas ignored everything Duman was saying and thought to himself, it is not against human rights to use someone else's belongings without their consent, and he thinks that he never left any heir from his era in this age. Thus, he has no family lineage or property to safeguard his name. Dauman is incessantly babbling and making comments, still insisting on who leads the Troman Rings, yet Lucas begins to distance himself. Dauman thinks he must be crazy to let such a chance pass him by without seizing it. Suddenly a voice interrupts. It is Master Peranjan, who asks Dauman to stop trying to convince Lucas since he won't change his mind. The one speaking is Master Peranjan, a highly esteemed figure in the academy. He walks over to Lucas and says hello. Dauman steps back, contemplating the arrogance of Lucas. Master Peranjun expresses his apologies to Lucas for Dauman's behavior, while also indicating that he hopes Lucas will join Troman Rings. Since Lucas has reached quite a high level, even at such a young age, Lucas appears completely indifferent and questions what he would gain by joining that odd group, as he doesn't even require royalties. Dauman is upset by Lucas's insult, but Peranjun tells him to calm down and watches Lucas leave. Later in the evening, Professor Jane and Lucas are at a restaurant, as Jane promised to celebrate with fried foods at dinner if he emerged victorious. Professor Jane and Lucas seem upset when Isabel arrives there uninvited as well. Although Lucas asks her to put down the knife, stop stuffing her mouth with food and leave, Isabel doesn't seem to care and asks him to focus on Jane and ignore her presence, since she isn't concerned about any inappropriate conduct between a student and a teacher. Of course, Lucas trembles with anger, but Isabel doesn't leave his side because she couldn't find anything about the third method he mentioned, and he wouldn't teach her either, so this is the last thing she can do. Jane sits there silently and observes them both and asks Isabel if she is referring to the method mentioned in Kasaijin's training, which she had heard as a passing rumor at the magical research meeting, but she couldn't find any related texts, no matter how hard she searched. Upon hearing that, Jane seems interested in Lucas learning about those methods, and she will be very happy if he shares them with them. However, Lucas takes his drink and then walks over to Jane, grabs her from behind, and teases her by saying he will answer her questions even better in private. Jane's cheeks warm up, she blushes, and wonders what's happening to her and why she even feels attracted to a student. As their faces draw closer, Isabel interrupts, slamming her hand on the table and telling them to stop doing those shameful acts. At night, Lucas stands on the terrace and wonders how strange it is that if the demigod truly has full authority over this world, then it must seem like a throne in the eyes of the people, and he thought that by now they would have done everything to erase the traces of their history from the world, but even after 4,000 years, they made absolutely no effort to distort their history or any information related to the legends. It is questioned whether there are those who perhaps continued with their will and legacy to fight against the demigod. He is thinking about all of this when Isabel enters, and Lucas shudders at seeing her suddenly. Then Lucas asks Isabel about the head of the academy, although Isabel thinks it's a silly question. She refuses to answer his question since he wasn't giving her an answer. Then Lucas tells her that if she answers his questions, he will tell her everything she wants to know. Isabel becomes as happy as a baby and tells him that among the students, the most powerful wizard would be Peranjun, and among the professors, it has to be Professor Dio or Professor Adelia, but the strongest in the academy would be her own aunt, Lady Ceres Trisinine, the headmistress of the academy, West Road. She is a level 6 mage, recognized throughout the empire as the Ice Queen. Professor Jane interrupts and joins their conversation, telling them that people say a wizard's limits are theoretically attainable up to level 9. But it is rumored that the last person to reach level 9 existed almost 3,000 years ago, but they have no way to prove whether those rumors are true or not. Therefore, they believe that the highest a wizard can achieve is level 8. Even then, there have only been 10 archmages who have reached level 8 worldwide. Lucas, while listening to everything, looks around the campus, notices the barriers around the campus, and asks who crafted those barriers. No one knew who crafted those barriers, but someone at level 6 couldn't do it, and Lucas suspects that something very suspicious is happening. He wonders if Isabel's aunt should know, so he will see her soon. He murmurs and sets out to reach level 7 first, although Jane finds it unrealistic and tells him that sometimes unfounded boasts become reality. Lucas smiles, approaches Jane, and starts teasing her, but Isabel interrupts again. Isabel threatens to report Lucas to his aunt, which makes Lucas upset and say that he hates brats, which infuriates Isabel. Jane partly agrees with Lucas, but Isabel also yells at her. For a moment, Lucas stands there on the terrace, contemplating how being hasty could be detrimental to him. After all, he got this opportunity after 4,000 years. Standing alone, he thinks about taking things slowly, as that will be the quickest way for him while he gazes at the moon. Even with a broken leg, David decides to come, filled with rage. Everyone watches him as he shouts, and his broken leg has drawn quite a bit of attention. He yells Frey's name and wonders where he is. With the support of crutches, he walks while shouting that there's no way a loser like him could defeat David. Everyone at the academy is worried about what will happen next. Meanwhile, Lucas is reading a book when he hears David shouting, saying that he will make him regret what he did and why he was born. David keeps shouting that he will gather all his friends to remind him who he is, but before he can finish his sentence, Frey throws a magical projectile at him. David is sent flying back to the ground again, and now he not only has a broken leg, but also a broken nose. Once more, he is sent back home for a full recovery. Professor Kevin tells the students the news, and everyone starts commenting on David's broken nose. Later, Lucas is wandering around the campus, thinking about how boring everything is. He really didn't expect anything significant from the guys, but he hoped they would present some challenge because after all, this is West Road Academy, which is supposed to be the most prestigious magic academy. While still lost in his thoughts, he realizes that he still needs combat experience if he wants to improve in adjusting the mana output level he can handle with Frey's body. As Lucas walks down the hallway, a voice stops him, calling out to him. He is a blonde boy who is here to defend David. He arrogantly claims he has heard that Frey is quite decent at magic. Seeing Frey look at him blankly, he introduces himself as Alex, and with every sentence, he drops a curse word. Apparently, he is the oldest of all the older ones, and he still hasn't finished his grand speech, claiming that weaklings like him fall around him and die the moment he looks down on them. Then Alex yells about what he did to David, who was supposed to be his cute younger classmate. Lucas, not knowing if he is trying to provoke a fight or just talking aimlessly, breaks the ice and asks if everyone is there to bother him. Hearing this, Alex lifts his hand to demonstrate some techniques while questioning if he is looking down on them. Again, Alex begins to speak, claiming he is the one who took part in the magical martial arts tournament and finished in 16th place. Lucas couldn't help but yawn at that comment and says it was a great presentation for an ordinary school bully who decided to team up with others against a single student. Alex wishes he would be quiet, but just before he can mumble anything more, Lucas launches his magical missile, sending him hurtling back. No one could actually believe that the loser like Frey could take down Alex. The other bullies begin to yell that he should have waited until Alex was done talking before striking. Lucas doesn't have time for that and excuses himself by saying he can't get involved in this stupid fight, but the bullies won't let him go, and one by one they confront him. And now Lucas is getting angry, and with a single shot, he takes them all down. Afterward, he sighs and whispers to himself that, at this pace, he will also become a boring bully. Later on, he sits in class feeling quite bored, but Isabella appears and tells him there's a rumor about a notorious student that has been overpowering every criminal with the enchanted missile. Lucas appears to be rather uninterested, since he hasn't encountered any worthy chance to utilize his magic, which surpasses even a magic missile. In the meantime, Isabel gazes at him intently as he rests his head on the table. He can't help but notice how dreamy he looks. Then Lucas asks her what she's doing there, startling her and causing her notebook to fall. After that, she tells him that she tried to follow his advice regarding the alchemical mixture. He looks at her, and she mentions that she knew troll blood was the best for the formula. But the ratio of 7.3 with the magic crystal he mentioned produced a very unexpected success. With his head on the table, he says it would probably be better if he used half troll blood instead, since half troll blood contains the perfect amount of corrupt substance mixed within. Isabel is once again taken aback and ponders what he will teach her this time. With a bored look in his eyes, he questions when he took on an apprentice. But then he reflects that this girl shows good potential, and with the right training, she could attain level 7 or 8. Then, Lucas says to Isabel that he will show her that training method after all, and she feels very happy about it. He informs her that they will spend the holidays on a training trip, and if she agrees to accompany him, he will show her what it means to learn the combat method. Moreover, Lucas continues by saying that this adventure could be risky and there is a good chance he may not return alive, so if she is not determined, he will suggest she quickly abandon him. But before he could even finish his statement, she agrees to go with him. Lucas feels nervous about her rushed behavior, but Isabel is genuinely thrilled to embark on an adventure with him. She arrives with a huge amount of luggage. Lucas is surprised by her big backpack and can't help but inquire about the luggage, thinking they might be going camping. Isabel yells at him, saying that women need a lot of things to get ready for these trips, and then she changes the topic to ask where they will be traveling to. Lucas says he is thinking of visiting Hispania, which shocks Isabel, who tells him that Hispania is known as the paradise of the most dangerous monsters. Lucas becomes curious and asks if she knows how to do it. Isabel puts down her luggage, takes out her map, and shows him that even if they take a teleportation door from Española, according to her, it should take them half a day to reach Hispania. She has heard rumors that the mountain houses many of the dangerous monsters that exist, so Lucas jokingly asks if she is scared. Isabel replies that he shouldn't underestimate her. She looks at him and adds that she never doubted that the adventurer would face his own share of difficulties. Soon they continue on their journey. Later on, Lucas inquires about the teleportation portal that Isabel brought up. Yona isi isininding oto ama. She says it's a magical ritual for long-distance teleportation. Lucas is surprised by its convenience and accidentally notes that they didn't have this 4,000 years ago. Isabel jumps in surprise, Then, Lucas realizes that the magical levels are lower among the current generation as they lack knowledge of magical arts, but they have developed convenient magical tools. But the teleportation portal is fascinating, Lucas corrects himself, saying it's a convenient teleportation portal. Isabel says it's a bit costly, so he asks how much. Isabel explains that the distance between Cosymphony and Española could mean a cost of about 10 gold coins. Lucas grows anxious as his total savings are only 1 gold coin. He realizes Isabel is noble too, so he asks her how much money she has right now, but she tells him she hasn't brought any money. Isabel was taught that living a life of luxury will make one accustomed to laziness. This is her journey for training purposes, and naturally, she wouldn't have brought any money along with her. Lucas yells at her, insisting she go home and fetch some cash. She refuses and asks him to ensure that this isn't her first test to secure funds for her adventure. Lucas remarks that it's strange coming from someone who packed luxury camping gear behind her. This time, Isabel yells back, claiming it's different. Women need to prepare many things for these trips. At this point, Lucas gets frustrated, so Isabel calms him down by saying they will find a way to travel once they reach the capital. Suddenly, she inquires if he has ever had a part-time job. Frey responds that he has never worked a day in his life, and when they arrive, they spot a massive ship. Lucas inquires how they will get on for free, and Isabel explains that it's free only for West Road Academy students. Lucas then realizes why there are so many students around. He starts to think that they will provide fantastic plates on the ship and wonders if there will be a meat menu for them. Hearing this makes Lucas feel hungry. Later, a steward tells them they are full and will return in 4 days. Lucas is shocked and falls down in disappointment. The steward suggests that if they are in a rush, they might want to take the Cortezo instead. It's not that bad, but they don't feel enthusiastic when compared to it. Meanwhile, a band of pirates is organizing a hunt on the Cortezo ship. The captain is outlining the plan to the whole group, saying that their target is the vessel that passes through the strait near Geotambul. They plan to wait for it to sail past the Oscar Islands and will strike when it is within their ship's range. Aboard the ship, Captain Mac Martinez of the Cortezo greets Frey and Isabel. He informs them that they will be stuck at the docks for 4 full days. It's saying, then a thin ends. Isabel asks him why there are so few passengers, since this seems like an excellent ship. The captain states that this ship goes through the Oscar Islands, but it is said that those islands have recently been frequented by pirates for hunting. Isabel is frightened and asks if she actually heard the word pirate. The captain reassures her by saying that this ship is being escorted by 2 warships, and each of those ships has a level 4 mage acting as our bodyguard for this journey. These are experienced battle mages from the Magic Association. 2 of them should suffice to deal with any pirate threats in these waters. The captain states that if they cherished their lives, they wouldn't dare assault a ship shielded by the Empire. Just then, the pirates strike their ships. They were scared, their eyes wide with horror. The pirates sank both of their warships in an instant, and it simply ended without help for them. But everyone was extremely frightened and left in shock, as no pirate should be able to sink their warships so easily. Yet they sank both of them. Once upon a time, all the pirates devised a plan to ambush the ship, but when they spotted Cortezo through his telescope, they were bewildered to see 2 warships accompanying him. The captain instructs them to assume their positions and keep quiet. Nevertheless, their honored guest will take care of the annoyance. When the guest appears, he looks wild, his face as threatening as a demon. Everyone bows as he casts his dangerous spell. The captain introduces the pirates to their guest, who is the Lich Lord Dallard, Glitch, and he will help them secure the profits on the ship. The pirate accompanying the captain is unhappy with the captain's choice, having only read about him in tales, but seeing him so near terrifies him. He doesn't even agree with pursuing Cortezo, but the thought of him making a deal with the Lich was the last thing he expected from the captain. He tells the captain that he will go down in history as the entrepreneur of the piracy era, but the captain scoffs and seems not worried at all. In the midst of their debate, a loud roar echoes, signaling that Lord Dallard is casting the Ice Spear spell meant to destroy the ship. The individuals aboard the ship are filled with fear, yet the seasoned battle wizards from the Magic Association stand strong to protect it. Not knowing the details, the captain cheers everyone on, claiming they will soon be rich. However, Lord Dallard's Ice Spear spell does not seem to be effective. The captain approaches Lord Dallard and mocks him, saying he really thought he could destroy both ships with a single spell. Doubtful, Lord Dallard ponders why his spell, meant to summon 3 ice spears, did not succeed, especially since the ship got away mostly intact. With hesitation, the captain reminds Lord Dallard of their pact not to destroy the ship, since they need the children aboard for a great profit. With a furious and terrifying look, Lord Dullard warns the captain that it would be a problem if they managed to turn back and escape the way they came. Thus he summoned the final spear to prevent their escape, never intending to destroy the vessel. The captain, concerned, inquires about its meaning. Lord Dullard, with a chilling smile, reveals that there is something noteworthy on the ship. Everyone on the ship is going crazy and running back and forth. The crew is doing their best to calm them down, but everyone is in a panic. Terrified, they refuse to listen to anything or anyone. Isabella was also alarmed upon seeing the warship go down, but Lucas reassures her that they are merely pirates and she has no reason to fear. But Lucas says that something worries him, and that is that 3 ice spears were summoned, but one has vanished without a trace. Isabel asks him if it was his doing, but he replies that it was not. Lucas thinks to himself that he felt that malicious mana but could not move. For a brief moment his mind went completely blank as he sensed a presence akin to that of a demigod, leading him to believe it was not unlike Frey. Given that Frey was weak and powerless, he was unable to defend himself. Lucas wonders if he might still be haunted by the trauma of being locked away for 4,000 years. While he thinks about all this, Lucas's body begins to sweat and tremble. Although he tries to calm himself, he tells himself that he is not a demigod and that he reeks of undead mana. Isabel is also worried and asks Lucas if it wasn't him. Then who was it really? So Lucas tells her that they still don't know, but they definitely should go greet them because they ultimately protected the ship. The pirates began to attack each other and it was chaos while the commoners screamed and yelled in fear. Isabel, scared, clutches Lucas's arm, but he tells her to stop being afraid because they are indeed pirates, not monsters. The pirates who attacked the ship smiled greedily, as they did not expect so many children and people on board, given that it is a smaller ship than the Nautilus. About 40 affluent kids were aboard the vessel, and they found the notion of passing their days drinking and having fun quite amusing. The captain proclaims that the rich heirs of West Road Academy are their friendly local pirates, the infamous raiders of the Bloody Sail. The captain of the cutter asks the captain of the attacking ship if he has any idea which vessel they are currently attacking. The captain of the attacking ship grins maliciously, and all the pirates start to chuckle. And the captain says he knows very well that it is a treasure ship with many hostages to exchange for a good ransom. Suddenly a voice interrupts. It is a student who steps forward with all his courage and says they have no right to do this, as the people aboard that ship are the future of magic. Everyone is destined to become powerful wizards, and it is a shame for them that they chose the ship carrying those students. The student starts casting a spell, but a pirate throws a knife, insisting the boy must face reality as no pirate would give him time to finish his incantation. The knife heads directly for his head, yet it sails behind the ship, leaving the student terrified and shaking with fear. Everyone is scared. Although Lucas notices a guy hiding his face with a zipper and thinks to himself that this is the guy who managed to alter the knife's trajectory that would have struck the guy's throat, and he is the one who prevented the ice spear from sinking the ship. The man positions himself before the shaking student and warns him that they are not foes he can easily battle and that he should remain silent and find safety. The pirate with the captain asks why the shot missed. The captain lies, saying he missed on purpose because that would be his prized loot, but it was due to the guy hiding his face who managed to alter the knife's trajectory. The captain gets angry and thinks about teaching his crew a lesson, and looks at a student with glasses and points to attack him, but the boy gets scared, falls down, trembles, and urinates in his pants. Following this, the captain pinches the boy's nose and ridicules him for urinating in his trousers, while one of the pirates hoists him like a sack and tosses him into the sea. The entire crew mocks him, and the boy begs for help while drowning, but he drowns in the ocean and meets his end. The people on the ship cry upon witnessing the cruelty, and one of them says he was a level 2 wizard and that this is pure injustice. The students are enraged and lament the loss of their friend, starting to cast spells of magic. However, the captain stands firm and calm, indifferent to the magic being hurled at them. The pirates are the only ones injured, while the captain remains unharmed, creating a protective circle around him. Everyone is left in shock, but when Leech arrives, people start trembling with fear. Isabel screams, but Lucas stays quiet. A crew member shouts that everyone has gone crazy. They struck a bargain with the living dead, and now everyone is being exploited, as the undead never negotiate with the living, leaving one to ponder what they were thinking before creating this chaos. The captain appears to be utterly indifferent and mocks them with pride, stating that they only care about money, as he is greedy for riches and influence. The crew says that even if he profits, this is madness. Isabel, seeing the scene, is frightened and tries to hug Lucas, but he tells her to stop clinging to him, as it is already very hot and cannot see how wet it is out there in the ocean. She hugs Lucas's arm and tells him that those pirates are not ordinary pirates and they are definitely in danger. Then Lord Dullard states that a lich has to be at least the equivalent of a level 5 mage. Every one of the level 4 battle mages was powerless against him, and he calls out to the person who thwarted his spell to come forward, knowing they are concealed in the crowd. He growls and urges them to show themselves, casting a spell that states if they keep hiding, death will come for everyone on the ship. In anger, he destroys the ship while casting his spell faster than ever. Despite the captain's hesitant protest that he disagreed with this, the lich stares at him with his horrifying red eyes. He trembles and closes his mouth. Suddenly, everyone hears the sound of footsteps drawing near. The man conceals his face with his zipper and finds himself face to face with the lich. The lich asks if he was the one who cancelled the spell, and he says yes. The lich requests that he reveal his name as he gradually lowers his zipper, leaving everyone astonished with their mouths agape and eyes wide. For it was none other than Peranjon. Isabel yells out Peranjon's name, and Lucas asks if she knows him. Then Isabel says that there is no student in her academy who doesn't know him because he is the student who leads the Truman Rings. Not only that, he is also the heir of the family, which is one of the 3 main houses. Isabel provides extra details, mentioning that he constantly competes with her for top grades in their academy, leading Lucas to believe she is bragging indirectly. To clarify, she states that although their grades are alike, his powers are significantly stronger than hers. At the same time, the other girls begin to swoon over him and the students realize they are safe. Even Isabel believes he will likely rescue them from this predicament. But Lucas confronts her with the reality that he can barely stand now because Leech, a level 5 wizard, and Peran might have some clarification, but still, his body is not free of impurities. Despite everything, he succeeded in breaking a spell that was far beyond his capabilities. Truly, it's a miracle he's still standing right now. Because of all this, Isabel thinks that Lucas might be more powerful than the Lich, but she doesn't seem to care and tells him to move away since she's holding his arm. On the other hand, Peran wonders if it was a mistake to board the ship, but he had no idea that the Lich would torment him like this. His hands are trembling as if his whole body is about to shatter into pieces. Then the Lich finally speaks, saying he didn't expect to find such a good subject like him. Peran faced the pirate captain to inquire about their goals. He mentions they heard that wealthy children would be traveling through the perilous Oskal Island, so he decided to pay them a visit. Wearing a wicked smile, he assures Peran that they will now get a substantial ransom from their families. Upon hearing this, Lucas sighs at the pirate's greed, but Peran presents him with a proposal. He will be delighted to be your hostage for the ransom, but he must free the others and his family will pay double the amount they ask for as ransom. The captain of the pirates is indifferent because they have the undead master backing them, and he dismisses Peran's offer. Suddenly Peran's eye sparkles, and he chooses to take the pirates before Leech can end his life. Lucas is struck by Peran's bravery, but before he could make a move, Leech desires to consume his mana and informs him that he will relish every single drop of his mana, using his disabled body to resurrect him as an undead like himself and keep him as his servant. Using his magic, Leech tightly grips Peran and the pirate captain yells that there will be no negotiations. He subsequently commands his crew members that grab all the kids. Terrified, everyone tries to escape the pirates, but they end up getting caught by them. A pirate then spots Isabel and Frey, with Isabel hiding behind Frey, and the pirate starts to approach them. Isabel clings tighter to his arm as she sees the pirate coming closer. Lucas isn't happy with how she holds him because he feels hot. At the same time, the pirate with lewd intentions suggests to Isabel that they could go play somewhere more peaceful, but he despises Frey's presence and orders him to go away. He mocks him, calling him thin as a burnt stick. Lucas is unfazed by the pirate's insults about his looks because obviously Frey isn't the ugly one here. The pirate gets angry and snaps his fingers to teach him a lesson. This angers Lucas, who calls him a one-eyed idiot. The other students, Jack among them, are worried about Frey and ponder if he has gone crazy since the situation is like adding fuel to the fire. Jack yells for him to halt merely because he's slightly stronger than he was before, doesn't grant him the right to act like a hero all over the place. Conversely, the pirate draws his knife and charges at him to strike because he was infuriated. Peran, Jack, Isabel, and the other students are scared of Frey, but Lucas, being himself, is unbothered. He simply raises his hand, and that was enough to throw the pirate off and knock out several of his teeth, leaving everyone in shock. The pirate drops from the ship into the water, and no one can comprehend what just took place. The students and pirates shared the same reaction. However, the students understood what was going on and simply stared at Frey, attempting to grasp that the biggest loser in the academy could pull off such a move. Even Peran was in disbelief. He knows what he saw. Frey countered with a high kick reinforced with mana, and it was so fast and with such explosive force that even his eyes couldn't follow the movement. Piran assumed he was aware that Frey was no typical adversary, but he was oblivious to the fact that Frey had remarkable command over the defenses of his mansion. Isabel is located behind Lucas, who puts his hand on her head and tells her to observe. He advises her that if she can't beat anyone on the boat, she should at least work on self-defense. Lucas walks to the pirates, leaving Isabel behind. The pirates are still unable to see what just happened, because even they could not follow Lucas's swift movements. They assume the fallen pirate lost his footing due to being too fixated on Isabel, but he soon realizes that this was not the situation. Lucas rushes in like lightning and stands before the pirate, who then loses his temper. The leech has been watching the entire scene and considers how fast it is before the chubby pirate can even notice what is coming. Lucas delivers a blow so powerful that it makes his bones creak, and he tumbles to the ground. But it's too late now because he isn't a good person like him. He says to take them down before they begin. Regardless of the hardships, he has never harmed humans, but these pirates don't strike him as human. Listening to all his grandiose words, the pirates become enraged and charge at him with knives, intent on killing him for his boldness, not realizing they are sealing their own fate. Lucas attacks them and only needs to use a few magic moves to defeat them one by one. But the pirates do not give up easily and decide to surround him. Well, they probably have no hope since Lucas's mana is exceptionally powerful, and in just seconds, the pirates are defeated. The Lich, the pirate captain, has been watching all this unfold. What speed and strength this boy has. Even the students can't believe how well Frey has been fighting. A young girl was fighting to escape from a pirate, and Lucas hurriedly comes to her rescue, kicking the pirate and liberating her. Lucas is fighting as if he were in a movie, but the pirates can still believe that there is only one guy who has been taking them all down. A few pirates, showing a hint of sanity, beg for mercy, but it's far too late, and they are all eliminated too. Out of nowhere, he hears a pirate calling him a monster and threatening to slit Isabel's throat if he dares to move a muscle, since she is held captive. Lucas turns around to look at him and knows what is going to happen next. The pirate sweats his pants and suddenly sees Isabel casting a spell on him, and his eyes begin to shine. She laughs and looks at him, and with a lightning bolt, she knocks him down, following Lucas's advice that she should at least be able to protect herself upon seeing such a bold move by the pirate captain. The Leech, Peran, and all the other students can't believe that Isabel did that. Isabel looks at Frey after making that move, as if asking for his approval, and then asks what he thought of the move. Lucas smiles and approves that it wasn't a bad move for a brat like her, looking proud of how she has been learning. After everything that happened, the pirate captain starts clapping and assumes that he must be an elite wizard from the Empire disguised as a student. Moreover, with tears in her eyes, she says that Frey really affected her, so she proposes a deal, as it is not just a simple image. But he still thinks it must have been difficult for him to defeat so many of his men. Lucas wonders what the deal might be, and the pirate captain says they can trade half for half, which means he will take half of these students for a ride, and Frey can save the other half. Meanwhile, all the other students are crying. The captain seems quite firm on the deal, thinking it's a win-win situation. Finally, Lucas breaks the ice, saying it's very unpleasant, but also somewhat refreshing, because Lucas has already killed many of his men, and yet he believes it's a win-win situation. The captain shrugs and says he'll let Lucas decide and choose the students he steps away from. A blonde girl shouts for him to pick her. Basically, she is begging him to save her and assuring him that she will give him 100 pieces of gold as a reward. Even if that's not enough, she says she would do anything he asks. One by one, all the students start running towards him, increasing their offers to save their lives. Although Lucas seems indifferent, he turns to Isabel and says they should accept some of these offers because they don't have enough travel funds. Isabel gets very angry, and Lucas starts bidding higher and higher as if it were an auction. The students are fighting among themselves and giving reasons for how much their lives are worth, because Frey should save them. The offers include a good job in the government, gold coins, and much more, and Isabel seems quite surprised by the selfishness of these people. Finally, Lucas speaks and tells them to give him a break. The blonde tries to cling to him, and he pushes her away, saying it's already hot and humid here at sea. Then he gives a speech and shouts that these foolish kids know nothing except how to flaunt their money, and it's not even their money. It's the money earned through their parents' hard work. Furthermore, he says that everyone wants to become a great wizard, but the only thing they care about is saving their own lives, which is a shame. Because what else do they expect to become after graduating? In a calm tone, Lucas says that becoming a great wizard is about protecting the weak. Regardless of how weak or strong they are, they must put others before themselves. Isabel, to say the least, is fascinated. Well, Lucas being Lucas, lightens the situation by asking how much he'll be paid. The captain and the Lich had been watching all of this, and the captain wonders if the Lich is also afraid of Frey. The Lich tells the captain not to be foolish because there is no human stronger than him, as if he had read the captain's mind, which unnerves the captain a bit, because now he must also be aware of what he thinks. The Lich says he was simply observing the boy because the aura emanating from him is something he has never seen before, and he is a talented magical martial artist. Still, he is only a level 5 mage. Suddenly, the Lich's clothes fall off completely, and he knows that Frey still won't be able to defeat him. Upon seeing the intense mana radiating from the Lich, the captain begins to flatter him, saying he knew he could trust him. With the Lich's eyes completely red, he speaks to Lucas, saying he has killed countless practitioners like him, so he should surrender and become part of him. Lucas sighs and says he can't find him likable at all because he talks just like demigod. This infuriates the Lich, who unleashes a living missile to strike him. Even though the spell is powerful and frightens all the pirates and students, Lucas swiftly dodges it. Yet, after dodging, the missile begins to come back towards him. Isabel yells at Lucas to watch out, explaining that it is a tracking spell embedded in the projectiles, which will just follow him. Well, Lucas is aware of that as he parries and thinks that Frey is in danger. This is because the tracking magic is not directly controlled by the Lich, rather it is a trajectory that constantly alters itself to target the objective. Meanwhile, Illich can still cast spells in addition to the tracking spell. Illich casts another spell called Bone Hand, and several hands begin to emerge from the ship's deck, following Lucas everywhere. The captain is amused by the sight, thinking that Frey might finally be defeated, and well, the hands collide with Lucas, and Isabel cries out for Frey in concern. Worried, Isabel uses her magic to find Frey. After many efforts, she's unable to see where he is and calls out to him several times, and after receiving no response, everyone assumes he has probably died. But the missiles are still in the air, and suddenly, Illich sees them coming directly towards him and tries to form a barrier around himself. Since the missiles are quite powerful, they create cracks in his barrier and leave him quite confused. Suddenly, Perran realizes that his seal has been unlocked and he is free. In a fit of frustration, Illich begins to launch erratic attacks, questioning what is going on since the living missiles ought to be targeted at Frey. Moreover, they should have vanished the moment he stopped detecting their life force, leaving everything beyond the Lich's comprehension. To his surprise, Lucas is standing right behind the Lich, leaving everyone speechless. The Lich turns around to see where he is and wonders how Frey manages to dodge all those attacks and end up behind him in an instant. Lucas explains that he really enjoys admiring the back of his head, because when he's behind, he can't really see the Lich's ugly face. On the verge of losing his temper, the Lich still wonders how was he able to do all this on an unstable deck, because that must have required Frey to go through at least 5 different simulations and calculations, and not even he is capable of doing that, an undead being unable to reach the level of a mere mortal. Then Isabel asks Frey if he's okay, but when he turns to look at her, she can't believe what she saw in a vision. She sees Lucas Trauman and starts to sweat. Afterwards, Perran spots the Lich making a bunch of ice spears. It's the same spell that wrecked the warships, and the students look terrified. At the same time, the Lich has a bad feeling about Frey and thinks he should just destroy the whole ship with his ice spears, even though he wishes he could have fed on Perran's mana. But anyway, now it is far too late. He sends forth the ice spears to wreck the ship, but a barrier prevents all his strikes. The Lich is shocked to see the defensive barrier that Lucas has erected. Meanwhile, Perran is shocked that he was actually vomiting blood after denying just one spear. Isabel remains in the same state she was in a while ago, and she wonders who Frey really is. The Lich, still in the sky, becomes furious. At that point, Perran and the others see the Lich crafting an ice spear of a size never before witnessed. Then the Lich sends it flying towards the ship. But Lucas jumps and defends the entire ship from the attack by shattering the ice spear into a million pieces, leaving the Lich completely astonished. Then Perran and Isabel, using their magic, create a barrier around the ship to shield it from the falling shards of broken ice. Both the Lich and Lucas stand outside the barrier, and the Lich believes Frey cannot be stronger than a level 5 wizard. It is truly impossible for a human to merge with him. Lucas says something confusing, and the Lich realizes that Frey is far beyond level 5. Then Lucas sighs and says that the Lich should try harder because he was just starting to feel good. Not every day can he use spells stronger than the magic missile. Naturally, the Lich is becoming frightened and yells out who Frey truly is. Lucas then informs him that he is commonly known as Frey Blake, the super loser from West Road Academy, but then he provides his real introduction. His true name is Lucas Trauman, and he is the one who came back to this world after 4 millennia to impart important life lessons to foolish madmen like them. He is the most powerful archmage in history, Isabel and Perrin can see them talking, but they are so high in the sky that they really cannot hear them and wonder what they are discussing. Illich screams about how he dares to lie since Lucas has been dead for centuries. Then Lucas stands behind him once more, stabs through his heart, and extracts the life container. Illich cannot really die until this life vessel is entirely obliterated. Since the location is different for all undead, it was hard for Lucas to find it. Illich realizes that it is the end of the line for him, so he attempts to persuade Lucas to halt, but without losing a moment, Lucas annihilates him and Illich ultimately dies. Everyone, the students, the pirates, Isabel and Perrin, are completely shocked by how easily Frey took down Illich. But the pirates know what a dire situation they are in now. The pirate captain sweats and wonders, how did a dead man die? It's his turn to be cooked. Lucas stands behind the captain and condemns everyone to death. The ship is a complete disaster, and all the pirates have been killed, including the captain whose body looks like it has been bitten. Lucas is left alone, having defeated all the pirates by himself, leaving all the students shocked. Isabel literally cannot believe what she sees. At dawn, everyone reaches their destination, and Isabel and Lucas begin to leave. Suddenly, a voice stops them. It's Perrin, who praises Lucas and says his powers were simply extraordinary and that he was truly impressed. Once again, Lucas ignored Perrin, and Isabel feels uncomfortable because of Lucas. Then Perrin stops him and bows before him, thanking him for saving his life and assuring him that he will repay his debt. Experiencing a sense of unease, Isabel halts Perrin and insists that it is not needed. But Perrin explains that he feels better because he had the chance to expel all his impurities along with some blood. Lucas laughs and tells him to stop bragging. In the meantime, Isabel remarks that he is being rude to him. While they walk into the village, Perrin inquires about what exactly occurred. Because only a few weeks ago he was absent and considered a loser at the academy, yet now he has literally defeated a high-level lich. Additionally, Perrin mentions he has heard the name Frey Blake before, known as the least talented student in the entire history of West Road Academy, but in recent weeks he has gained prominence. This only indicates that he has been concealing all his true powers all along. Lucas changes the subject, saying that all kinds of things occur in life. Perrin wants to ask him more, but chooses not to. Then he invites him to visit his family estate sometime to show his gratitude for his actions. When Isabel hears that, her jaw drops because it's literally a personal invitation, but Lucas says he'll only go if he has time. Upon hearing that response, Isabel gets angry and wonders if he's crazy because there are many nobles trying to find the slightest thing to request a formal audience with the June house. Meanwhile, Lucas gave a very poor excuse. It occurs to him that he could ask Perrin for some money, like 20 gold coins. Isabel can no longer hold back and yells at Lucas about how he can use this opportunity to ask for money of all things, and that this is not how a West Road wizard should act. But Lucas is aware that Isabel is not the sharpest person and reminds her that they are in this mess because she was too stubborn to bring money with her. On the other hand, poor Perrin is getting nervous and says he's fine with giving them the amount, but he needs to know what they plan to use it for. Lucas went straight to the point and says he wants to get a trip from Cosinfonia through a teleportation stone. So Perrin pulls out his bag, he gives them 300 gold coins and tells them to take it as a sign of his thanks. Seeing the 300 gold coins, Lucas feels somewhat embarrassed, yet Perrin insists that he should take them. Later, they start walking through the village, and Perrin tells him that he would like to invite him right away, but he is in the middle of a marital dispute with his fiancée. Lucas laughs and tells him to stop bragging, but Perrin explains that his marriage is not as pleasant as it seems because it was entirely arranged by his father without his consent. Well, Lucas, being a cultured man, directly asks if his fiancée has an older sister or an aunt. Isabel shakes her head and shouts that Frey should leave him alone. Then, Perrin further says that he was told she is the daughter of the esteemed House Luanoble, which is said to be a powerful family that has produced many famous knights. However, he is still not sure they will get along, nor is he sure they will like him after they find out that their future fiancé is a weak magician. When Isabel hears that, she says that statement is full of contradictions because he is surely far from weak, but Lucas assures her that Perrin has a handsome face that makes up for everything else. It's not the security Perrin was looking for. Once again, Lucas reminds him that he needs to tell him if his fiancée has an attractive older sister or an aunt. Being annoying, Isabel stops him and shouts for him to stop the obscene thoughts running through his head. Seeing them fight like children, Perrin bursts into laughter. Isabel and Lucas look at him with a strange expression, and he explains that he hadn't laughed like that in a long time. Upon reaching a bridge, Lucas and Perrin have to part ways. Perrin reminds him to visit his property and that he will properly repay the life debt he owes him. Again, Lucas responds in the same way. If he has time, he'll surely stop by. There is a moment of silence between them, and Isabel finds it a beautiful sight. Then they say goodbye, and Isabel thinks they seem like old friends. When Perran leaves, Lucas says that's how true nobles should be, and how much money does he have. Isabel gets irritated again by his comment, and tells him she feels sorry for being a noble who is poor. Lucas, on the other hand, seems angry and starts yelling at Isabel, telling her to pack her things and go home, and then asks how she plans to train in such a fancy outfit in the mountains, telling her to change into something light and comfy. Isabel looks at him in confusion, and when she realizes that Lucas has scolded her, she gets furious with him and tells him that he obviously knows that she was just trying to show off some of her fancy clothes, and shouts, questioning why he is getting upset with her without any reason. As they walk side by side towards the teleportation stone, Lucas picks up a bag he is carrying and admires it, stating that it is an incredibly useful tool because it is enchanted with spatial magic that lets you carry many things with a light weight. Isabel looks at Lucas strangely, wondering if it's the first time he's seen a bag, since it's quite a common item. As he walks, Lucas thinks he noticed it when he heard about the teleportation stone, but civilization has advanced considerably and the population has increased greatly. There were many back then, yet he would never have predicted this. But considering that 4,000 years have passed since then, he still can't say there have been many changes in the world. Something clicks in his mind, and it might be possible that the demigod is responsible for hindering the development of human civilization, but the question arises, why? Maybe he was afraid of not being able to maintain his power once humans advance further, but it's really not possible because they look at humans as if they were mere insects to them. Suddenly, a voice interrupts his thoughts. It was Isabel informing Lucas that they had reached the teleportation stone and asking what he was thinking about while he was so focused. Lucas scratches his head in confusion, wondering how they got there so early when they enter and see a large ground called Magic Circle.